I'm sorry about this. Mr. Van Staten might think he's clever, but never mind him. I've come to help. I'm the doctor. Impossible.
The Doctor! Exterminate! Exterminate!
Let me out!
Exterminate!
Sir, it's gonna kill him.
It's talking.
You are an enemy of the Daleks! You must be destroyed!
It's not working. Fantastic! Oh, fantastic! Powerless! Look at you. The great space dustbin. How does it feel?
Back!
What for? What are you going to do to me? If you can't kill, then what are you good for, Dalek? What's the point of you? You're nothing! What the hell are you here for?
I am waiting for orders!
What does that mean?
I am a soldier. I was bred to receive orders.
Well, you're never going to get any. Not ever.
I demand orders.
They're never going to come. Your race is dead. You all burn, all of you. 10 million ships on fire. The entire Dalek race wiped out in 1 second.
You lie.
I watched it happen. I made it happen.
You destroyed us.
I had no choice.
And what of the Time Lords?
Dead. They burnt with you. The end of the last great time war. Everyone lost.
And the coward survived.
Oh, and I caught your little signal. Help me, poor little thing. But there's no one else coming because there's no one else left.
I am alone in the universe.
Yep.
So are you. We are the same.
We're not the same, I'm not... No, wait. Maybe we are. You're right, yeah, okay. You've got a point. Because I know what to do. I know what should happen. I know what you deserve. Exterminate.
Hello and welcome to Who Watches Who, a Doctor Who podcast with me, Matthew, and as always...
Hello, I'm Scott.
Yes, hello, he is Scott. This week we are looking at Dalek, probably one of the greatest episodes of Doctor Who ever, and definitely one of the best episodes in Season 1. Maybe one of Eccleston's best, if not his best. It's such a fucking phenomenal episode. And it first aired on April 30th, 2005, a shocking 17 years, 3 months, and 9 days ago, which, to be fair, out of all the episodes we've covered, this one does kind of feel like it came out almost 20 years ago. Like Dalek, like Eccleston's series, they're so removed from everything else, they feel old compared to the other stuff. But at the time, George W. Bush was the president of the United States, and Tony Blair was the prime minister of this here United Kingdom. I've no memory of Tony Blair, and I have very vague memories of George Bush. What a great thing to not remember. Can you guess what? There's literally fuck all else happened on this day, so can you guess what is the number one at the box office? I guarantee you will not, and if you will, I'd be the most surprised ever.
Okay, so I know Star Wars was around this time. Maybe it was a month after. Was this April, you said?
April 30th.
Okay, so Star Wars was probably in, like, May. So it's definitely not Star Wars. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, maybe.
You're
I
so
don't know.
you're so unbelievably close. It's a film called The Interpreter. The Interpreter is a 2005 political thriller directed by Sidney Pollack, starring Nicole Kidman, Sean Penn, Catherine Keener, and Jesper Christensen. It's notable for being the first film shot inside the United Nations headquarters, as well as the final film directed by Pollack before his death in 2008. I say you're really close with Hitchhikers because Hitchhikers is #1 next week. The start of May, Hitchhiker's Guide becomes #1 at the box office, and it's a great film. I love Hitchhiker's Guide. The books are great. The books get really, really strange. I think the film does a good job of cutting out a lot of the parts of the book that you don't really need and making it a pretty concise little story. But
I've only seen the movie.
Well, you should read the books. They're really fun.
We should do the TV show. You know, the 6-episode TV show.
The really old TV show.
Peter Davison is in it. It's gonna be perfect.
Wow, I'm sure
You could do it.
I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure it's probably just a bit dated and paced weirdly.
Yeah,
but
it's BBC and it's 1980. Of course, it's gonna be weirdly paced.
Yeah. And somebody's gonna say the N-word for no reason. Looking at you, Faulty Towers. But turning our eye back to history, on April 30th in 1789. George Washington becomes inaugurated as the first president of the United States. Now remember this. This is an important history fact. It's a pretty cool one to know. When George Washington was inaugurated, it was the same day that Dalek came out, just a few hundred years in the past. In 1798, the United States Department of the Navy forms. And then in 1808, the first practical typewriter is finished by Italian Pellegrini Turri. So typewriters come into existence. The Navy gets formed. George W. Bush becomes president. All at the same time, people are thinking, God, just this day, there's like something Dalek-y about this day. And keeping in mind of what Daleks were inspired by, if we look at 1945, Adolf Hitler commits suicide along with his new wife Eva Braun in Führerbunker in Berlin as the Red Army captures the city. So the same day that George Washington was inaugurated as president, Adolf Hitler killed himself. Dalek came out.
Yeah, but Dalek has nothing to do with the Nazis. What are you talking about? Doctor Who was never political.
If anything, the Nazis modeled themselves on Daleks.
Yeah.
In 1988, the then largest banana split at 4.5 meters long is made along Market Street in Pennsylvania, in Selinsgrove, Pennsylvania. That was a fact I normally would just leave out, but I thought talking about banana splits after mentioning Hitler killing himself was really funny. In 2004, Mean Girls, the teen comedy inspired the teen comedy film released starring Lindsay Lohan and written by Tina Fey comes out, just 1 year shy of Dalek and like 70 years shy of Hitler killing himself. I just missed it. In 2009, the Chrysler
Hitler was the best Mean Girl.
In 2009, the Chrysler Automobile Company files for bankruptcy. That's why you don't see Chrysler cars anymore, or at least I don't think you see them anymore. I think the company's properly gone forever, which is a shame. They made okay looking cars, but apparently they weren't okay enough. In 2015, the United States Senator Bernard Sanders announces that he will seek the Democratic Party's nomination for president, and everybody was like, what could have been? What could have been? What an amazing time that would have been. It's hard to not say that the Democratic primaries were stolen from Bernie. If you look, Michael Moore has a really good documentary, Fahrenheit 11/9, which is about like water and Flint and Trump and stuff like that. But he looks into the Democratic primaries as well, because the Democratic primaries are not really elected so much based off popular vote. It's what the Democratic Party think are going to win, and you can still vote for them, but at the end of the day, they get to choose. And they basically just chose Hillary, even though Bernie won a lot of the votes, which is just tragic to see, because he's a man that should be president but never will be. Because he's like 9,000 years old.
Yeah, politics is insane, man. Just always choosing the wrong person.
Yeah. And speaking of politics being insane and the wrong person, in 2020, the soon-to-be gone Prime Minister Boris Johnson says that Britain has reached past the peak of COVID-19. On April 30th, 2020, he said the peak was done. We've seen it through. It's all over now. And when did it really end? Like the start of this year? It's still going. It's still going on. But like restrictions and people caring about it kind of ended the start of this year, I think.
Yeah, we just got rid of the mask mandate like in March, I want to say.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. And then since after getting rid of the mask mandate, I caught COVID, which was great.
Yeah,
I hadn't had
same
COVID
here.
the entire pandemic until all the masks went away, and then I got it, and it sucked.
It's almost as if it's connected in some way, you know?
It's a scam. It's a scam to take away your freedom. And that's why they gave it all back, because they realized people were figuring out their scam. Yeah, that's just science facts.
Yeah, this has turned into the Alex Jones podcast.
The turn of the freaking frogs, okay. That is all the information I have got for April 30th. It was a quiet day because everybody was inside watching Dalek, or very excited about watching Dalek in the evening, so nothing else was happening. But what about the writing of this episode, Scott? What was the creative process like for this thing?
Well, to begin with, I'm going to go into the director, Joe Ahern, and interesting date of birth here. Do you want to have a guess when he was born?
April 30th, 1945.
Close enough, but November 23rd, 1963, which is, he was born to do Doctor Who, because obviously Doctor Who started that day.
Yeah.
Wildly enough. So his first work was in 1994 with a short film that won an award at the Edinburgh Festival. He wrote and directed episodes of the BBC Two drama This Life in 1997. He created the critically acclaimed miniseries Ultraviolet, which is basically about vampires in London. And yeah, apparently it's a decent show. I've never seen it.
I recognize
it's
the name.
Yeah, it's from 1994. It aired on Channel 4. It has a very young Idris Elba.
Wow.
And he worked on Strange in 2002, which is a drama about a priest versus demons, which was not a success, but it lasted for about 7 episodes. But still, he had obviously experience in this genre, and this fantasy sci-fi genre. Mm-hmm. And of course, his Doctor Who episodes are Dalek, Father's Day, Boomtown, Bad Wolf, and Parting of the Ways.
All super episodes.
And they all look fucking amazing. Like, I think that Series 1 final is on level to... almost on level to a blockbuster at the time. Because I remember that being such a big thing.
A big spectacle. Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
although Doctor Who finales always... They don't really capture that feeling so much anymore. But I remember, like... David Tennant era as well, you know, when all the Daleks stole the Earth and there was like 1,000 Dalek ships in space. I remember it being like, this is like a movie. Like, it's so large scale and grand.
Yeah, it felt like Joe Ahern's set the record on like, this is what a season final should look like for Doctor Who. And for most of the Russell and Moffat era, they basically stuck to that. This is a big event that everybody should be watching. The Chibnall era, not so much, you know, the planet title, you know, the planet that we couldn't pronounce, which didn't feel like a season final at all.
I don't remember. I think the only season finale I remember is the most recent one, and maybe the one before that where they killed all the Time Lords again and really annoyed me.
Oh god, yeah, we're gonna do that one in 2 months. That's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
Next month, actually.
We're coming up to Chibnall month.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, the year's going by quick. But yeah, I think the issue is, like, Chibnall tried to make all of his episodes feel like a season finale. Like, that's how they all get marketed, is they're all like, this is the biggest episode ever. This has got the most action ever. The most special effects ever. The most ever. The most evers ever. And they just never really live up to that hype. They're usually, like, fine to bad.
Yeah, but Joe Ahern won a BAFTA for his work on Doctor Who Series 1, and that's well deserved. I think he is like the most impressive director to come out of Series 1. All the other people did a good job of their episodes, but I think his episodes are like the most cinematic. Anyway, after Doctor Who, he wrote and directed a TV movie called Perfect Parents in 2006, and Eccleston, Christopher Eccleston himself, was the lead, so obviously a good working relationship there, which, given what we've heard about his time on the show, Eccleston,
Yeah.
that's very rare for him to be working with somebody else from the show.
Yeah, but I'm glad that at least he got one good relationship out of it.
Yeah, and he wrote and directed a ton more miniseries and also wrote the Danny Boyle movie Trance, which is something I've not seen, but still. It's one of James McAvoy and Rosario Dawson, I think her name is.
Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rosario Dawson. Yeah. Yeah, I've not seen it.
Apparently it's very good, but, you know. The writer...
Danny Boyle's hit or miss with me, but...
the writer for this episode is Robert Shearman, who was born in 1970, and his doctor should have been Tom Baker, but he was absolutely terrified to watch the show as a child. He was even scared. Did you not ever hear about this emu character? He's like a puppet emu.
It doesn't sound familiar.
So basically, Rod Hill was a comedian. He created Emu, and it's basically an emu on his arm. And that's the gimmick. And on his show, there was like Daleks, but they were dustbins instead, and he was terrified of that.
Wow.
Robert Shearman was terrified of just like a joke of Doctor Who.
Very scared of Doctor Who. Yeah.
And anyway, in 1980, a friend at school told him that Douglas Adams, who we just mentioned
Hitchhiker's
10
Guide.
minutes ago, Douglas Adams had written for his show, which he thought meant that Douglas Adams wrote for every episode. So he went out to the bookstore and bought a copy of the novelization of The Image of a Fendal, only because it had the least terrifying cover. He loved the book so much that he wound up watching the Davison era and the Colin Baker episodes as they aired, and he fell off during the McCoy years because he went through his teenage rebellion phase of not liking the show. I went through that for a little bit, for the Capaldi era.
Yeah,
did you ever go through that era?
No, I've always liked the show.
Yeah, there was a point after.
I suppose maybe I'm in my rebellion era now because I'm like the show. I still love the show. I just like it. It's good. Yeah,
Yeah, I think I hate watched the show for quite a bit. Like Series 7, Series 8, Series 9, I wasn't in love with it. And also, after Series 9, the final Heaven Sent, I think the episode was called, I just hated the episode so much I decided to not watch Doctor Who anymore, but I heard Series 10 was so good and I jumped back on to that.
Season 10 was good. I think maybe my rebellion for Doctor Who, the first season of Capaldi, I love Capaldi as a doctor, but his first season is fucking awful. I remember really not liking that first season, but I didn't stop watching. I kept watching. I've never stopped. But yeah, I think that first season of Capaldi I wasn't a fan of.
Yeah, I think I wound up missing the Husbands of River Song, the Christmas special that was about superheroes, Doctor Mysterio.
Yeah, Return of Doctor Mysterio. Yeah.
And then I missed the first 2 episodes of Series 10 live, and then I started watching live from after that. So I basically only stopped watching the show for 4 episodes, and I jumped back on board.
Yeah, but like I'm surprised you stopped at Series. Like I really enjoyed Series 9. I thought the every episode being a 2-parter really annoyed me, but other than that, I really loved Season 9.
Every episode being a 2-parter was completely fine with me. I just had problems with the series final and how the Doctor was written about his loss for Clara. I just didn't like how that was written.
You just have bad opinions.
And the Doctor going to Gallifrey and shooting that guy in the face, I was like, this isn't the Doctor for me. And maybe if I rewatch the episode, I'd end up loving it.
The Doctor shooting someone in the face is very on brand for the Doctor. We've watched a lot of classic Who. It's like the one thing he does all the time. Like...
Oh god, he's even holding the gun in this episode.
Yeah, he loves shooting people. He says, I don't do guns. And then like the next scene, he'll go bang, bang, bang.
But Robert Shearman eventually rediscovered his love when the Paul McGann movie released. And
yes.
Yeah, we did a review on that movie last year, and we wound up just...
Loving it.
I liked it. I didn't love it, but I liked it a lot,
I had never seen it before, and I loved it.
It's basically the template of modern Who.
It is, and it's cheesy and has bad moments, and it's fucking great. It's so good.
Eric Roberts is like so bad in that movie. It's good.
He's great. He's how everyone's great in it. It's so good.
So Robert Shearman became a professional theatre writer between 1991 and 2001, and during this time he noticed a lot of his mates were writing for Virgin Books, which were like Doctor Who based books.
Of course they were. Yeah.
Were in the Wilderness
Virgin
era.
Books, Doctor Who books. Yeah, so yeah.
Yeah.
Tracks.
He never submitted a novel himself because he didn't consider himself a novelist, which obviously changed because he's a novelist now, which is wild. His first ever Doctor Who experience was writing a BBV story where the 10th Doctor is stuck in a sitcom world, which is basically, from that vague description, sounds like the concept for WandaVision.
Yeah. It sounds like a good episode of Doctor Who, but yeah, it does. It feels like if they did it now, it would just get compared to WandaVision.
And also BBV, if you don't know, is the company that kind of got the Doctor Who rights. They got all the actors and all that, but they didn't actually get the rights to Doctor Who. So Sylvester McCoy was playing a character called the Stranger or something, which was basically the Doctor, but not the Doctor. It's very
Discount wish
complicated.
version of the Doctor, yeah.
But I'd be interested in checking that out. It's only like £10 on the BBV website, which BBV is a company that's in a lot of hot water right now for copyright laws and all that shite. And apparently the guy is not a good guy, the guy who runs it, which...
Interesting company.
Yeah, we need to do BBV sometime, like
I
the
feel
Cyber
like
Bronze.
I really feel like a lot of their success was based off the fact they sound a lot like the BBC.
Yeah.
And the fact that they've got like The Stranger, that's just Doctor Who, but they're the BBV. You know, I feel like that's where a lot of their as being the knockoff, but like discount version of BBC. You know.
So Robert Shearman was good friends with Nick Pegg and Barnaby Edwards, who were involved with the birth of Big Finish's Doctor Who range, who would later become Dalek operators for the actual show, and they ended up inviting him to write the 14th Big Finish release, The Holy Terror, which is a story featuring the Sixth Doctor and the Penguin, Frobisher, which is... I want to go in and just jump into all the Frobisher stories because a talking penguin as a companion to the Doctor sounds absolutely mad.
They sound mental. Yeah, they do sound like completely mental stories.
So Robert Shearman wound up writing for 5 stories that were released between 2000 and 2003, writing for the 6th and 8th Doctors. He also wrote an Unbound story where Derek Jacobi, which we know as the War Master, he kind of plays a version of Doctor Who, which is kind of bizarre.
Interesting.
I've not heard of a story, but it's basically in a world where Doctor Who doesn't exist as a TV show, but the Doctor Who kind of goes into our reality or whatever. It's very bizarre.
Yeah, it sounds strange. Yeah, it sounds strange.
But his biggest release was Jubilee, which is a 6th Doctor story, which shares a lot in common with this Dalek episode. Jubilee begins in 2003, where the Doctor winds up in an alternate reality where 100 years ago the Daleks invaded the planet, and the Doctor joins forces with the English Empire to take them down, and the English steal the Dalek weapons, the Dalek alien technology, and they use it for their own purpose, and they become an empire, and they take over the whole planet. And you might be thinking, what does this have to do with Dalek? Well, at the end of part 1, the Doctor is taken into a prison cell, and who's been held prisoner but this one Dalek, in a very similar scene to this episode, the Dalek episode. And here's the clip now.
Wow, the magic of editing.
And yeah, you can hear the similarities with that clip, can't you?
Yes.
Did you listen to the clip?
Yes, I did. You can hear the similarities. It's very, very interesting. I personally prefer their little song.
Yeah. I shared a lot of out of context moments with Matthew on this thing because I listened to it in preparation for this episode. It's a mad Big Finish.
It sounds
release.
like mental story. It's on Spotify for free, isn't it? So
it is.
If you want to check out something Big Finish related that's not going to empty your wallet.
Yeah, check out Jubilee. It's fun. It's a very dark satire. And basically the only things and similarities to the Dalek episode is the fact there's a Dalek being held prisoner and the Dalek kind of goes mad. And that's the only similarities, really.
Yeah.
But it's a very good story, and it's very dark and morbidly. It has morbid humor. It's kind of like Sweeney Todd in terms of really dark humor. I think episode 4 kind of fizzles out, but it's a really good story, and I would recommend it. It's very interesting. Robert Shearman's first TV series, Born and Bred, was co-created by Chris Chibnall, and he wound up getting sacked because his second script wasn't very good, and he just got sacked from the role. Chris Chibnall famously sacked Robert Shearman for not a good script.
It must have been fucking atrocious. It must have been dreadful.
And Born and Bred is a show we've never heard of. I
Yeah.
think maybe for a reason.
Yeah. I kind of want to find it. I want to find both the show and that script because
it's probably a show that wouldn't be on BritBox because it's not good enough. And BritBox will add anything.
Yeah.
But not Born and Bred.
No, nobody wants that.
So Robert Shearman considers himself not to be a very good script writer, and he thinks he got really lucky with Dalek, which, I mean, fair enough, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't heard too much of his other work.
Sometimes inspiration just strikes, I think everybody's got at least one good story in them.
Yeah, so in 2004, Russell T Davies had heard Jubilee and thought that Rob could do a perfect Dalek story, and he wound up working on an episode for Series 5 for a few months, but struggled getting his story right and just left the project. Basically, Stephen Moffat was like, hey, you're not really going anywhere with this, so yeah, we're just going to replace you, which is kind of sad. But both
Moffat
showrunners,
and Chibnall,
yeah.
Both
But
fired
yeah, I wonder
him.
what that story would have been.
I don't think it would have been anything by the sounds of it. It doesn't sound like he went into it with an idea. He was like, yeah, sure, I'll write something, and then just stared at a blank piece of paper for like 2 weeks.
I can relate to that, to be honest. He also wrote a Dalek novelization in 2021 and thought it would be the perfect opportunity to expand on his TV story and add more humor. Basically, we get more backstories with this Dalek book. We get backstories on Van Staten. We get backstory on Adam. Basically everyone gets a backstory apart from the Doctor and Rose, because also we know their backstory. Basically, one of my favorite moments of the book is when Van Staten is trying to go to the collector who has the Dalek, and he's trying to sell the Dalek, and the collector is like, Van Staten wants to buy the Dalek for like 5 million, and it's a low price, and the collector is like, I don't want to sell it to you for 5 million, and basically Van Staten keeps giving him bids that aren't high enough, and years later down the line, the collector asks to see Van Staten. He's on his deathbed, the collector. He's dying of cancer. And the collector is like, okay, I'll give you the Dalek for one condition. Just give me the cure for cancer. And Van Staten is like, no, I'd rather wait for you to die. Which is perfect. Yeah. It's an interesting book. You get a lot of context to like backstories of characters. It's an interesting book.
Nice.
And he has written more stories since. He has a free volume collection called We All Hear Stories in the Dark, which is a choose-your-own-adventure style book with 101 short stories. What was that noise?
It was Bailey's voice using the Google as a house speaker, like a announcement thing. I didn't hear what she said, but
okay. So basically,
fuck, it's going again.
You should do better. Be better. Just be a different person.
Okay. So
I heard that. Okay. I'm confused, but okay.
Yeah.
So basically, in writing the Dalek episode, Robert Shearman told his girlfriend at the time, hey, I'm going to be writing for the Daleks. And his girlfriend was like, oh, that's a bit shit, isn't it? Because, the Daleks were a joke at this point. The Daleks were basically just being sold for Kit Kats, where they're chasing around people in a shopping mall saying, we want to love you, we need hugs and whatever. That's what the Daleks were in the public consciousness. And they were also in the Looney Tunes movie for a short period.
Oh my god, hang on. Yes? Unacceptable. Thought by the time I moved out, I wouldn't be having interruptions recording this podcast. You know, Bailey's interrupting, you're interrupting. Awesome. Anyway, you were saying.
But yeah, Daleks were just a big joke at this time. And his girlfriend wrote down a list of things where the Daleks were a joke. Give me a second. So he basically had his girlfriend write down a list of reasons why the Daleks were a joke, so he can confront these things head on into the script. Things like the Daleks can't use stairs, they had a silly plunger, they can't see behind them, etc. And he even named the character Goddard after her. But Shearman isn't quite sure she was grateful for that. But yeah, going into this episode and be like, okay, the Daleks are a joke, so I must confront this and write them to be badass and menacing is like a perfect approach to do this, because it's been 17 years at this point since the Daleks were last seen on screen.
Yeah, and the Daleks themselves, they are very 1960s designed alien.
Yeah.
You know, they look a bit dorky. They've got weird symbols and balls on them that they don't need. And so you have to go into it being, how am I making this scary for a modern audience? And I think it nails it in every single moment, you know?
Yeah, because as a kid, this episode terrified the shit out of me. Like, holy shit. It was like my version of a Terminator. Yeah. It scared me to no end. I think I even had a Dalek nightmare at one point.
Wow.
It was fucking terrifying.
Yeah, I've only ever had one nightmare from Doctor Who, and it was because of the Ood.
See, I can never have nightmares about the Ood because I just see them and I think they're eating just spaghetti.
It wasn't so much their like tentacle faces, but it was, you know, their first episode with the devil.
Yeah.
When they got like fucking like red eyes or whatever the fuck, it just scared me to my core as a kid. Like that, it just fucking shook me. And I remember specifically the nightmare because I've remembered it my entire goddamn life. Is like I'm on that the base wherever the fuck next to this spaceship. We're getting chased by so many of the Ood, and they're all evil. And I end up like, it's like this industrial bit and going up some like a ladder, you know, like the ladders with the metal gate around it, you know, climbing up one of those ladders, getting chased, and the Ood are right on my fucking heels. And then I turn around and one of the Ood just has a human skull. And then I woke up, and I remember that scaring the shit out of me. And like, it's not scary. Like describing it, it's not scary at all. But like, I must have been like, what, 7 or 8 when that episode came out, and it just like that fucking nightmare stuck with me. Like,
that's the thing about Doctor Who, though. You just use your imagination, and things become so much worse. Because nowadays, when you watch the Ood episode, you're like, oh yeah, they are squid people, and there's a devil. I'm
it's a bit cheesy. Yeah.
But Jesus Christ, as a kid, there's nothing more terrifying than Doctor Who.
You get sucked into it. But that's what makes Doctor Who so exciting, because it's a horror TV show, but a fun sci-fi show, and it's for the family, but sometimes it feels way too scary for a family show. And it's brilliant. It's such a versatile show.
So the funny thing about this episode, Dalek, is it almost never made it to air. There was a point where they were in negotiations with the Terry Nation estate, and basically they almost never got the Daleks, which would have been devastating. So Russell T Davies came up with a design of a monster called the Toclophane, which were these like little ball things.
Yeah.
And this design would also be later used at the end of Series 3.
Yeah.
But this episode would have been interesting with the Toclophane instead of a Dalek. I don't
it would
think
be
it would
weird.
have quite the impact.
Yeah, because I mean, the Dalek they have that history connection with the Doctor that really allows it to sink deep, and also, you know, the connection with the Time War and all that other shit. Whereas if it's like, oh, it's the Toclophane, be like, okay,
I don't, for new viewers and old viewers, I don't think there would be much impact of, oh yeah, this brand new villain somehow caused the Time War.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's the oldest villain that the Doctor's ever faced, there's more tension and more intrigue there.
Yeah.
But throughout this process of writing the script, Russell steered Shearman into a more emotional version of the story and to simplify characters so that script could focus mainly on Doctor and Rose. And Shearman was very used to writing for the 6th and 8th Doctors. You know, this was 1980s BBC, where people had to speak proper English, and words like, what the hell are you doing here, wasn't uttered on screen. And he was more used to writing for like the classic series format of just people running around corridors, which was like all of Classic Who.
Yeah.
And of course, and not much character development for the companion or anything like that. So yeah, Russell T Davies. I can't imagine being Russell T Davies and being like, "Don't watch Classic Who because Classic Who isn't what we're making here. We're making something more like Buffy or something like that."
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's the writing process for this episode. Are we ready to jump in?
We are ready to dive in, scene by scene, to Dalek. Ah.
I shall speak only to the Doctor.
You're going to get rusty.
I bet off the DNA of Rose Tyler, extrapolating the biomass of a time traveler regenerated me.
What's your next trick?
I have been searching for the Daleks.
Yeah, I saw. Downloading the internet. What did you find?
I scanned your satellites and radio telescopes.
And?
Nothing. Where shall I get my orders now?
You're just a soldier without commands.
Then I shall follow the primary order, the Dalek instinct to destroy, to conquer.
What for? What's the point? Don't you see it's all gone? Everything you were, everything you stood for.
Then what should I do?
All right then. If you want orders, follow this one. Kill yourself.
The Daleks must survive!
The Daleks have failed! Why don't you finish the job and make the Daleks extinct? Rid the universe of your filth! Why don't you just die?
You would make a good Dalek.
So, our episode begins with the TARDIS appearing in some sort of strange museum in the futuristic year of 2012. A year that seems so far away that I don't think we'll ever get to it.
At the time, this felt like ages away, especially as a kid. Couldn't grasp the concept of when 2012 would be.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, that's 7 years away. That's gonna be a lifetime.
Yeah, no, I was 5 years old when this came out. So 2012, I would be like leaving primary school, going into secondary school, whereas in 2005, I'm starting primary school. Like,
That's mental.
You know, so thinking that far ahead, like, Jesus, I'd be so far. Imagine what the future's going to be like. 2012, not really that different than 2005. Although, I mean, smartphones, that's probably the biggest difference.
That's the biggest difference when you go back to this 2005 season of Doctor Who, when the Doctor hands Rose the phone in the end of the world, where it's like a flip phone. It's like, holy shit.
Yeah, but it didn't feel weird at the time.
No, it didn't.
They look around this museum, and there's all sorts of little nostalgic Easter eggs in this museum. They talk about like it's this thing from some boat or something.
All sorts of nostalgic things.
Yeah.
And there's a thing from this boat.
Think from
which I'm
something I didn't
nostalgic
know.
about.
Yeah, but there was this Slovene arm, which is a reference to like 2 episodes before, or possibly even the
One episode
the
before.
last episode.
The episode before was my first episode of Doctor Who, so this was my second. And what a great time to start watching Doctor Who, I'll tell you what.
Yeah, good time to get hooked into it. And then we also see a classic-looking Cyberman head in the episode Dalek, which is, you can't have one without the other. It's also just a little bit of, this is our first appearance of the Cyberman in modern Who history, and it's the classic versions, which... How often, I feel like it's happened more than once, that the Doctor has been in like a museum and seen a classic Cyberman.
Oh yeah, I'm
Like-
sure it's happened more times. I can't think of any off the top of my head. There was this episode in the William Hartnell era, of course. It was before Cybermen were a thing,
yeah.
called the Space Museum.
I'm currently watching that right
Yeah.
now. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the
you've been
story
watching
I'm on.
that for like 6 months.
It's bad. It's also bad because it's right after the Bug Planet thing, and that was fucking
Oh
terrible.
god, yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's this famous moment in the Space Museum where obviously it's a space museum and the Daleks are there. There's a Dalek there, and William Hartnell steps inside of a Dalek.
Yes.
In a very amusing moment.
It is. It's quite charming.
But yeah,
But-
this Cyberman was here because Julie Gardner, the producer, suggested that the Cyberhead should appear because, of course, it's a nostalgia element for the older fans of the show.
Mm-hmm.
And when I watched this as a kid, the Doctor was like, "Oh, it's an old friend of mine," and I was like, "Oh my god, it looks really sad because it's crying." I'm like, "This must be an old friend from the classic series or something." I'm sure they're friendly,
Yeah.
right?
You were dumb because he then says it's my enemy. I hated them. Grr.
They actually named an episode of, a box set of the Christopher Eccleston Big Finish series called Old Friends. And we were sitting there being like, oh my god, it's referring to the Brigadier because he's in the box set. I mean, of course, they revealed the Cybermen, which we
Yes.
should have realised from
Yes.
this moment. Like, we didn't catch on to that. I can't believe we didn't catch on to that.
Yeah, but that's because I'm also dumb. But
Also, one of the things in this museum is part of the Roswell spaceship, which would have come back into an earlier draft of this story where Adam and the Doctor hide in the Roswell spaceship,
Yeah.
and they're being hunted by the sentient minds, which are the balls of the Daleks, which is an interesting concept.
that's cool. What I like, I don't even know what I'm starting the sentence with that. Roswell, one of the places I want to go, just because I think it'd be a cool place to visit. You know, I'm not really into America so much, but the one thing I
Yeah.
want to do is I want to do the Paul thing from the
Yeah.
movie Paul, where you're just visiting all the fucking alien shit in America because it's the coolest stuff that America has to offer, isn't it? You know?
Yeah. One of the best Futurama episodes takes place in 1950s Roswell, where
Yes,
Fry
yes.
fucks his own grandma.
Yeah, he becomes his own granddad. Brilliant episode.
Also, this episode being set in 2012 is one of my complaints of the episode because it's like Van Staten should know what a Dalek is because 4 years ago they tried to take over the entire Earth. They stole the Earth.
I would also say that it being set in 2012 literally serves no purpose because they don't go outside. Ever.
Yeah, true.
You could set it in
Yeah.
the year fucking 1962 if you wanted,
Yeah.
or 2548. They don't go outside. It makes no difference. Like,
Yeah. In the book, they don't mention a year at all, which I think is the best way to do
Yeah.
it because obviously the book came out last year and it being set in 2012 wouldn't matter to anyone. So
yeah.
it doesn't matter when it's set, but 2012 is an oddly specific date.
I suppose, it's the 6th episode of the show. You've really only done 2 time travel episodes so far. You want to really
Yeah.
establish that this is a time machine, and so you just set it in a future date because, we can travel in time as well, by the way, just teaching that to your audience, But the Doctor lays his hands on the glass, alarms blare, and a heap of security guards come running in, and then we go into the credits. We've spoken about Eccleston's Have we spoke? Is this our first Eccleston
Yes.
episode?
No, we did Rose last
We
year.
did
It's what we
Rose.
started with.
Yes, of course. And the Eccleston intro, very similar to the David Tennant intro. Weird giant surfboard that makes no sense, but amazing theme song, super nostalgic, great time. We then cut to a shot of a helicopter coming down, and I'm only mentioning this because, of course, attention all personnel, Bad Wolf 1 descending. The helicopter's called Bad Wolf. This is Russell T Davies laying in his seeds for the Bad Wolf storyline, which, looking back on it, so blatantly obvious. Like,
Yeah.
every single episode is like Bad Wolf this, Bad Wolf that. There's Bad Wolf all over the walls, and they keep calling attention to it, but I was 5, so it was
Yeah.
amazing to me, and so none of it, I never caught on to any of it.
Same here. As a kid, obviously, all I watched was children's shows, and they didn't care enough to carry on a theme throughout multiple episodes. So,
Have an overarching story, yeah.
Of course, I'd see Bad Wolf, and I was thinking, oh, it's like the fairy tale.
Yeah, but from that helicopter, we then walk into a very rushed corridor where there's a man talking very fast and giving off different orders, saying that he wants a new president because he doesn't like the current one, and what's is not, and he fires a dude, and you can tell that this is the most important man ever, and then he when he fires the guy, a new lady takes charge, and then he's like, so what do you think, Republican or Democrat for the next president? And she goes, Democrat. And he goes, yeah, why? And then she goes, because they're just so funny, which is, I think, a lot of the Americans' way they vote. They just kind of just whoever's the funny one, that's the one we'll vote for.
But yeah, off camera, you were mentioning Trump, how
Yes.
he reminds you of Trump, and in the book, Nicholas Briggs had the same thought. The audiobook, he kind of did a Trump impression for Van Staten, which works well because he is kind of like a Trump. He also reminds me of an Elon Musk kind of person as well.
And Elon, yeah, I think modern times, because he's like, choosing presidents and stuff, they would probably lean more into the Elon Musk thing because it's, he's the owner of the internet and it's this tech rich weirdo. Maybe a bit Mark Zuckerberg. You could either do Elon Musk where he's trying to be funny and cool, or Mark Zuckerberg where he's just like, nah, I'm fucking weird. Like,
yeah. Or also Jeff Bezos is another example you could pull
just
from.
a total surfer bro that Jeff Bezos is, dude. He's so chill. Have you ever heard him talk?
No, I haven't actually.
Because he's from California. He is like a surfer bro. He like talks like a surfer bro, and it's the funniest thing I've ever seen. It's amazing. Like, his voice doesn't match his face.
I need to listen to this once we finish recording.
Yeah. But as they're walking, the lady then informs Super Rich Man that they found some intruders 53 floors down, and they have no idea how they got in. And he's like, I know how they got in through the window, which is amazing. And then he tells everybody that they have to laugh because it was a funny joke, and of course they laugh.
And of course, Russell would reuse this joke like 3 seasons later in the Sontaran two-parter. The 10th Doctor uses it himself, if you remember that.
Yeah.
And also, this scene walking through the corridors is a big tribute to the West Wing, which I've never seen. All I know about the show is they have these famous scenes of just characters walking through corridors. These very long one-take scenes. Also, in this scene, Staten mentions his birthday, and in an early draft, Van Staten would force the Dalek to sing Happy Birthday to him, which would have been an interesting scene to watch in the actual broadcast edition.
Yeah, that would have been weird. But as speaking of the Daleks, the lady's like, hey, Simmons, have you got news for me regarding this thing that's definitely not a Dalek in the episode called Dalek? And we then cut to a Dalek's POV, which is not the first time we see Dalek's POV, because we saw it all the time in the classic era, but this is the first time we've seen it with the modern take on it, where you're looking through the Dalek's eye, and I think it's way better than, previous iterations, obviously because we've had special effects and budget for it that we can improve upon what the original established. But this Dalek POV is something they go back to quite a bit whenever there's Daleks, and I always think it's a bit neat. I do also sometimes think it's a bit dumb because it does the magnifying thing, and they do that so you can get funny looking faces every now and then, and it takes away for the dramatic element for me.
Yeah, there's a point later on where Christopher Eccleston has no head. His head is kind of scrunched up, and it's a very dramatic scene. Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, that's kind of funny. His head is mangled.
But they're like, is this thing talking? And Simmons goes, well, it's screaming. Is that anything good? As he's continuing to torture it, which is just a lovely piece of extremely dark.
The guy playing Simmons is perfect for the role because he screams psychopath energies.
Yeah, if there was anybody that you were like, who tortures aliens, I'd be like, that guy. Like, we then cut to was Van Trite's his name, something like that. Van Staten. I don't know where I got Trite from. Van Staten's office, where he gets handed this weird looking device that was apparently $800,000 to buy. And he's fiddling with it, and he's like, oh, what is this thing? Some sort of flute or fucking gun or whatever the fuck. And the Doctor comes in and says, you're an idiot, you're holding that like a complete buffoon, and takes it off him and shows him that it's this instrument that you have to rub gently and delicately to make it make a noise, and it sounds like shit.
It just reminds me of Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yes.
Which is a great movie. But yeah, one of my favorite things about this scene is the giant portrait of Van Staten as behind him is perfect because it's like a thing that Trump would do and all those weirdos.
It's been a very political episode.
In Doctor Who, never.
Impossible. But the Doctor shows him the instrument, and then Van Damme then takes it and starts doing it as well. And they're like, "Oh, you made it work. That's cool." Then he throws it away, and he's like, "Basically, who are you?" And also throwing it away is a good way of showing how rich this dude is, because that's 800,000 alien artifact, super rare, and he's like, fuck it, don't like it.
And also he's just basically like a child. The Doctor is treating him like an idiot, and he's like, "I don't want to be treated like an idiot. I'm a man."
Yeah. And they have this really intense back and forth because of it, where they're just trying to continuously one-up each other with cute little quips. And he's misogynistic towards Rose at one point, and Rose is like, "Shut up, you weird man." And he's like, "Oh my god, you're English. That's so cute." Because this guy's like American or something. And it's like, "Don't you know who he is? He owns the internet." And it's like, "Nobody owns the internet." And he goes, "Yeah, just keep thinking that and we'll be fine." Which is interesting, that the richest dude ever doesn't want to be famous. But
it's one of my favorite things about Van Staten is he wants to be behind the scenes. He controls presidencies, but he doesn't want to be in the spotlight.
Yeah,
he wants to control everything, but he doesn't want his name to be there, which is interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's not really explored much in the episode, but it's definitely an interesting
in
thing.
the book. It's explored a lot more, which is interesting.
Yeah. But Staten basically says that, "Hey, we've got this funky alien downstairs that's not talking to us. If you get it to talk for me, then I'll let you guys go, and we'll all be chill. Since you know your way around aliens, as you've shown to me with this instrument, it'll be pretty cool." And the Doctor's like, "Okay, whatever. Let's go see this little alien of yours." And he goes into a very dark room, and doesn't question why it's so dark. He's like, "Oh, this is a naturally dark environment. There's no sudden reveals about to happen to me, the Doctor, and this episode called the Dalek. I'm not in for any shock surprises right now."
But just before that, Van Staten says that the Dalek is actually called Metaltron, which is an interesting name for the Dalek. But in the book, so in an earlier draft of the story, Van Staten would actually want to name it Van Staten after himself, which, as you just said, doesn't make sense because he doesn't want to be known. So this change makes a lot more sense. Also, in the book, the Metaltron idea was given to Van Staten by Adam, who is like the little English sidekick character who kind of has a crush on Rose, kind of, and then becomes a companion, which I don't like. I don't like the Adam character.
I think he's. I remember Adam being okay, but my main issue with Adam is he's around for like 4 episodes and then just gets like the brain surgery.
2 episodes.
And then just gets the brain surgery. Although, I think the reason for Adam is to show that not everybody can travel with the Doctor.
Yeah.
You need to have a certain level of grit and a certain level of like independence and smart thinking to get yourself out of situations that Adam just didn't have, so he couldn't cut it, which is why I quite like the idea of the Adam character, but the actor's a bit of a iffy guy, isn't he?
Oh my god, yes. But one of the things about Adam is in the comics, his character got expanded on. So years after being abandoned by the Doctor, Adam plotted to kidnap various companions from multiple incarnations of the Doctor with the Master. However, when the Master made a plot to destroy the universe, Adam sacrificed his life to stop him and was buried with honors. So this is like a 50th anniversary comic series, which is fucking wild.
that is wild. But the issue with like if Adam was a villain is he'd be really easy to defeat because you just have to click your fingers and then poke his brain. Like,
oh god, yeah, I forgot about his brain thing as well. God.
Yeah, he gets a brain thing.
His character is very weak, but also in this scene, we mentioned that the last guy who touched the Daleks turned into flames.
Yes.
And in the book, the character was expanded on. This character was a doctor, and the Dalek got confused and thought it was the Doctor and killed him, which is perfect irony, I think.
Yes, that is great. I also do enjoy the Doctor's comeback when the guy's like, "You got to wear these gloves because the last guy that touched him caught fire," and the Doctor just goes, "Well, I'm just not going to touch him." Like,
yeah.
which is perfect logic. But the Doctor goes into the dark, spooky room, and he's like, "Hey, look, everything will be chill. I'm the Doctor. I'll save you, and things will be cool. We'll get you out of this mess you're in." And then, just in the darkness, we see two little blue lights light up on the side of its head as it goes, "The Doctor," and then basically the fucking penny drops for the Doctor. The lights come on, the Dalek's there, and it's like, "Oh my god, you're the Doctor! Exterminate, exterminate!" As the Doctor starts panicking, and the reveal of the Dalek is so goddamn cool and so well handled. I really think this episode suffers being called Dalek. I think it should be called Metaltron.
Yeah, so Shearman wanted this episode to be called something else. And one of the producers was like, I think Dalek would be a better title, because when you're marketing the show, you want as much viewers as possible. And of course, calling it Dalek is like your money shot, basically.
Yeah.
Everyone will want to view an episode called Dalek.
And everybody's going to still enjoy the reveal of the Daleks, because they'll be interested into what the updated design looks like and the tension and stuff like that. I get it. It's just, I want to be surprised still, and I'm not getting to be surprised still because I know it's coming.
I mean, as a kid, we had no idea what a Dalek was.
Yeah,
so we were surprised.
I get it. It's just, it wouldn't be my go-to name for it, you know?
Yeah, so Shearman wanted the Dalek to look more damaged and falling apart, but thought the final result was perfect. And I think the final result was perfect. He wanted the panels to be pulled aside and for us to see the little squid inside, which I think would have been too soon of a reveal.
I think the reveal of the squid later on is much better. Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the most important things in designing the Dalek was to keep the Dalek looking exactly the same as the classic series. It's an iconic design, and it looks updated. It looks great. It looks perfect, because in the classic series it looked pretty much identical apart from the color change. The color change was made to make them look more powerful and more metal, which they look amazing.
Yeah, what they've got here that really helps as well is because they look metal, and because it's made with a slight bit, quite a bit more of a budget. They look heavy. They have a weight to them. They have a physical weight, which the classic ones literally don't have. When you can jump on them and go whee across the room.
Yeah, in the classic series, you just see Daleks wobbling around all the time, whereas here you believe that the Dalek is a tank.
Yeah, it feels heavy and dangerous.
Yeah, and another thing that was changed from the classic series was, in the classic series, operators used to have mover heads, eyes, weapons, lights, and actual move the body at the same time, so they were controlling everything. Whereas now in the modern era, somebody controls the head with a remote control, and all the operators have to do is just move the Daleks and move the weapons, which is obviously useful in making the Daleks' movements more precise. And also somebody else is controlling the lights. Basically, Nicholas Briggs is in a corner of a room, basically talking like this, so that whenever he points, the person controlling the lights lights up the Dalek head, which is obviously before they would have to do it from inside the suit, which is, we've seen the Dalek movie where the lights just go off at random times.
Yeah. But sometimes they're synced up to the dialogue, and it's so inconsistent and strange. But as the Dalek is screaming "exterminate," the Doctor quickly figures out that it can't kill him, and this is when the Doctor's demeanor changes. He starts going from panicky to, "Oh, I'm gonna fucking shout at you now," and make fun of the Dalek, and it leads on to this. What I love about this episode is it doesn't waste time. The episode is called Dalek. We are 5 minutes in, and the Doctor is shouting at a Dalek. You're getting exactly what you wanted, and he's shouting for a long time. It is just the Doctor. I could watch the entire episode being just these two in this interrogation room. Just the Doctor interrogating a Dalek, because Eccleston's performance as he's telling the Dalek, all of your people are lost. I killed them all in the time war. You're powerless. You're nothing. I'm gonna kill you now. And when the Dalek's coming back with you're alone as well though, loser. Haha. We've just got each other. Give me a kiss. When that dialogue's happening, it's so amazing, and Eccleston's performance is so goddamn you can see little cheek muscles move when the Dalek starts saying things. He's giving it his all, and it's amazing.
Yeah, Eccleston is just on fire in this episode. In this scene alone, he's going through 20 different emotions. At first, he's sympathetic, he's in disbelief, he's in fear, he's mocking the Dalek, he's in disgust, he's anger, his pride, his gloating, his guilt, his grief, his loneliness, and his happiness at killing the Dalek at the end of a scene where he's exterminating the Dalek. There's just so much in there, and his performance is perfect. It's amazing.
It is absolutely spectacular. But eventually, of course, he doesn't get what he wants because the Dalek just starts making fun of him, and then the Doctor gives up. He's like, I'm just going to kill you now, ha ha ha, which is also something that I really liked because, one, you're seeing the darkness of the Doctor come through, because this is not, this is a Doctor that's been through the Time War, or thinks he's been through he's been through the Time War, but he thinks he's killed everyone, when really he hasn't killed everyone. And he's just full of this, like, rage still, and you see you see the War Doctor come through him, where he's like, I'm just gonna kill you. He's still got that bit of John Hurt lingering in, and he's going straight for the kill, and then it gets interrupted when Van Staten Island is like, hey, no, don't kill my toy, and gets him kicked out and stuff like that. And then he's like, oh, so we finally have a name for you, Dalek. And the issue I have here comes up with the eye when Staten is talking, and he's like, oh, you'll talk to me. And it cuts to the Dalek's point of view, and he's got, like, no nose, and it looks like those filters that make your mouth bigger. It's ridiculous. Like, I feel like it completely undermines the power of the scene we just watched by having this stupid fucking face suddenly on screen. But, yeah.
Yeah, it feels like the director was not aware of what the process would be in the post-production side, because I think if he knew that his face would be distorted,
just have him stand somewhere slightly different. Yeah,
in the very center of a Dalek eye stalk would have been a more appropriate choice. But also in this scene, just opening with the Doctor in complete fear of the Dalek, you're like, holy shit, our hero is scared of this villain.
Yeah,
I guess we must be scared.
Yeah. Oh God, it's such a great scene to open the episode with as well. And this the episode really goes from strength to strength, because you go from this into the Terminator-esque horror elements when the Dalek's just going around killing everybody. Actually, Terminator is probably a pretty big inspiration for this episode. Thinking about it, they're in like this big warehouse, and there's this evil alien robot going around killing everybody. But yeah, what a scene to open the episode with. Immediately hooks you.
Speaking of wasting time, I'm just thinking, if this was a classic series episode, this would be the cliffhanger to part 1.
Yeah.
We'd have to sit through like 25 minutes of the Doctor and Harry just talking.
Well, there would be, I think the episode would open, and it would be a solid, like, 10 minutes of walking around the museum and looking at things and just chatting aimlessly about it, then getting arrested, then chatting with the dude, and then that's the end of part 1. Is after he's like, do you want to come see my alien? And then part 2 opens with this, and it's a really solid 10 minutes of just this awesome monologue, and then the next 10 minutes is just them back looking at the museum, walking around for a bit, because this is a 5-part episode, I think, in Classic Who. Like, they're gonna pace this one horribly. Like,
I'd find it funny just to write what it would be like as a classic series thing.
Yeah, it would be. You just have to, at a certain point, stop doing plot.
Yeah, just have a Doctor and Rose wandering around. Oh yeah, there's a Cyberman head, and there's a Sontaran head. Oh wow, remember Sontarans?
Yeah, just start
just
listing stuff.
nothing.
Yeah. At a certain point, just have them stop talking and just have shots of them looking at stuff silently. So our episode continues with some really awkward flirting between Adam and Rose, where Adam is like, I'm this genius guy, and I'm super cool, and I'm kind of like the human version of the Doctor, and that's why you like me, Rose. And Rose is like, oh, you're kind of like the Doctor. Oh. And that's a lot of the scene where we're just kind of fleshing out who Adam is, and that he's this genius dude, and Rose is like, I like the Doctor, and you're like him, so I like you, hee hee hee. And it's fine. It's just a bit bleh.
Yeah, it's easily the worst scene of the episode. Every other scene is just dynamite, but this scene is just like, I don't care about Adam, and neither did Robert Sherman. Sherman struggled to write for the Adam character. He basically wrote him as a nerdy character based on himself, and he didn't even see why Rose needed a love interest. And a lot of these episodes, Rose is flirting with somebody that isn't the Doctor, whether it be Mickey, Adam, or even Captain Jack. And those 3 guys turned out to be sex pests. So.
Alleged.
Well, this one, Adam admits to it, so...
Okay, well, the other 2 are alleged. I actually think Mickey got away with it. Or allegedly he was found innocent, or he was found innocent, and
I don't
all
know.
all the charges got dropped against him, I think.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean he's innocent. But
I mean, it doesn't mean he's guilty,
Yeah.
innocent until proven guilty. But
Yeah.
but also you believe victims. It's a tricky situation. That's why you just go allegedly. He's a bit of a weird man. But same with Captain Jack. I think he kind of admitted it as well. He was just like, to move on.
he definitely admitted to showing his bully on the set of Doctor Who and Torchwood, which as a grown man you should realize, don't take out your bully on set.
Just a bit of banter. Yeah, it's not.
Yikes.
It's pretty yikes. But anyway, the Doctor's in a lift, and they're like, "How did the Dalek get here?" And it's like, we found it in a hole. It was like crashed, and we were like, yoink. And that's really the extent to that. And then the Doctor gets captured, and then he becomes shirtless, which because he gets like strapped up to be X-rayed. Which is one of the few times we see the Doctor shirtless. We see Matt Smith shirtless quite a bit. He was always getting naked, which was weird. Did we see David Tennant with his top off ever?
I feel like we must have at some point, but I can't remember. I can't exactly say I catalogue all the moments the Doctor
Yes,
the Doctor
you
is
do.
shirtless.
Yes, you do. And
But,
we've definitely
just-
not seen Eccleston or not Eccleston, fucking Capaldi or Jodie shirtless.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because it would be big news if Capaldi got his nipples out.
But yeah, you just skimmed over the elevator scene, which one of my favorite moments of the elevator scene is basically establishing that the Dalek is only a threat because the Doctor is there. If the Doctor wasn't there, the Dalek would just sit there for the rest of its life, potentially, which is a fascinating concept, I think.
It's interesting that the Dalek would just sit and rot, not trying to escape, because it's like, fucking somebody's got to help me, right?
And the Doctor being shirtless here is really weird because Christopher Eccleston has an eating disorder and he feels self-conscious about his body. I imagine he didn't do this deliberately on his own. I feel like it might have been one of the reasons why he left, because he definitely was not keen on his body image.
Yeah, perhaps. But ever the professional, he still did it. You know, he's bit the bullet and he got it done. And then he was like, "Fuck you guys, I'm gone." But it's a shame as well because he has all these issues and stuff. And it's a scene where if he was just wearing a vest, he'd get the same shit.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to be shirtless.
Yeah,
at all.
and it's just weird seeing the Doctor shirtless.
It is always weird seeing the Doctor shirtless.
This is episode 700, and the Doctor's never been shirtless before. It's very bizarre.
Yeah, but he's getting scanned, and Van Staten figures out that he's an alien because he's like, "Holy shit, you got 2 hearts. That's mental."
Which is the first time I realized he was actually an alien, because obviously this is my second episode, and I was like, "Oh yeah, the guy's a human." I didn't even realize it was a time travel show.
Even when they said they're in the year 2012.
No, this was when I found out it was a time travel show, because last episode was set on modern day Earth.
Yeah.
But this scene with Staten torturing the Doctor, it was done during the draft without the Dalek. The idea was to up the ante with the other characters, which works out well in its final draft, I feel.
Mm-hmm. But basically the Doctor's like, "Hey, the Dalek's gonna kill everybody if you don't let me out of here." And Staten's like, "Ha ha ha, I don't believe you." And then anyway, we cut to a scene where the Dalek's about to escape as he's Rose and Adam come into the Dalek room and they're like, "Hey, we're allowed to chat with you, Dalek. I just want to see what you're like." Because of course, Rose at this point never saw what the Doctor was doing because she was busy flirting with Adam. She wasn't paying attention to what he was doing for whatever reason and didn't see the Doctor try to kill it, I think. But they come in, they start talking, and it's a much different Dalek we get, because the Dalek here decides to talk with Rose, but it decides to kind of play her for the fool, where it's like, "Oh, everyone's so mean to me, and you're so nice. You're so pretty, Rose. Ah, fantastic." And Rose is like, "Oh my god, you're like the Doctor. You're kind of cute. Ha 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 ha." And she touches it, and then the Dalek fucking immediately changes in the best way possible, because it becomes terrifying. Because it goes from like the slow talking, like, "I am in pain. I am the last of my kind too. Fucking, I've got your genetics, but let's fucking go. Like, as the music starts swelling and the chains start breaking off, like, it becomes terrifying.
Rose actually wanting to befriend Dalek and all that actually works out well because if you remember in the end of time or the end of the world, I can't remember what the episode was called. It was like the second episode
End
of
of
the
the world.
season.
End of the world.
Yeah. So if you remember, Rose is kind of disgusted looking at all the aliens, and the Doctor's like, "Don't be disgusted. They're actually friendly." And in the book, it's established that Rose remembers this. And she obviously watches the Dalek being tortured on screen, and she's like, the Dalek could be actually friendly. We need to go see him, see if he's okay and all that.
Yeah, because she's not had a chance to chat with the Doctor to be like, hey, this is the one alien. Actually, it's the one of many millions of aliens that aren't friendly. But this one's like number one.
Definitely number one. Jesus
what
Christ.
he should have done is when he was looking at the Cyberman, he should have been like, oh, this is an old enemy of mine. You know, they're like really dangerous, almost as dangerous as these guys called the Daleks, but they're wiped out now, so you don't need to worry about them. And then when they see this Dalek, and Rose is like, oh, you're called Dalek? Oh, wait, you're really bad. Bye. You know, and then problem solved. Problem solved.
Yeah, so one of the inspirations for this scene of Rose meeting the Dalek is Hannibal Lecter. You know, that scene where Jodie Foster visits Hannibal Lecter in the jail.
Yes.
The idea is the Dalek is too dangerous to talk to, and will get inside her head.
Silence of the Lambs.
Yes, of the Lambs.
Yes, what a great film that is, with 2 atrocious sequels.
I've never seen the sequels.
Hannibal, which is the first sequel, is directed by Ridley Scott, and it's really bad.
Is that the one with Brian Cox?
I don't know. It's
okay.
It ends with Hannibal eating a guy's brain, and the guy's still alive at the table, like having a conversation as Hannibal's eating his brain. And then the third one, I didn't even finish. It was that bad.
God, okay.
Yeah, but Silence of the Lambs really good. But the Dalek comes alive and starts breaking out of its chains. We get like a superhero moment with Eccleston where it's like a close-up on his face and he's like, let me out if you want to live. Like, it's very 2000s-y action hero, this is my hero moment sort of deal. Like, again, this Doctor Who with this director kind of ends up feeling like a movie at times, you know?
Yeah. Peter Capaldi? No, Christopher Eccleston.
You're doing it as well. Their names don't sound similar, and yet I still get them confused. They don't even look similar. They're from different parts of the country. And one's an old man.
Christopher Eccleston saying that line, "Let me out if you want to live," reminds me also of Terminator. Come with me if you want to live.
Come with me if you want to live. Yeah.
And also, one thing about the Daleks is here they're redesigned slightly so they match eye level to Rose, which is perfect, you know, because obviously they have a lot of eye contact in this scene.
It's better than them being weirdly small or just too big. You know, the Daleks in Classic Who were never really the right size.
That's one of the reasons why the Teletubby Daleks came in, because Karen Gillan was so much taller than Billy Piper. So Karen Gillan was then eye level with the Daleks. And
you call them Teletubbies. I call them Power Ranger Daleks.
You see, I never watched Power Rangers.
I loved Power Rangers.
My comparison will always be Teletubbies.
I loved Power Rangers. So good. But yeah, I still would be interested as to what would happen with that storyline. But it's like the one storyline that got dropped. That aired and then got dropped, you know. But anyway, the Dalek goes on a rampage. We find out that it's like a super fucking genius and can hack any code ever because it's, you know, a robot. 5.
No, I'm just stopping you right there because you've skipped over one of the most important scenes in Doctor Who history.
It's because the thumbnails weren't loading for me, so I was just kind of skipping and hoping. But the Torture Man. He's like, what have you done? I'll stop the Dalek. And then he becomes the only person in recorded Doctor Who history. Maybe it's happened in audio dramas, but it's the only one on screen to ever be killed by the plunger of a Dalek. Yeah. And it like sucks his face up, I guess, is what it does.
Yeah. I think somebody else got suckered by a Dalek in Doomsday. I feel like there was a scene in Doomsday where something similar happens, but he's probably one of the only two people who got suckered by a Dalek?
If it has happened in Doomsday, I don't remember it happening because this is the only time I remember it happening. In Doomsday, a dude gets 2 suckers on the side of his head.
Yes.
He gets suckered by 2 Daleks at once. Yeah, that's what happens to the guy in Doomsday. Yes.
Well, again, suckered by 2 Daleks at once sounds a bit sexual.
I'm sure for the Daleks it is.
So in the book, the torturer guy actually gets a big backstory. Basically, as a kid, he suffered from extreme headaches, and he found out that torturing animals or people helped cure the headaches for a while. And obviously, he then met Van Staten, and he became a torturer of aliens. And in this moment, his headaches are completely gone. But as the Daleks is obviously suckering him, his headache returns. And obviously, at the same time, he'll never have a headache again, because obviously the Dalek kills him, which is brilliant irony, I think.
Yeah, that's pretty fun. Then the Dalek escapes, hacks its way through, and a bunch of guards start shooting it. And in great, I think, an amazing homage to classic Who, the guns don't leave any bullet prints anywhere. There's just like firing into nothing, and that's because, of course, this episode establishes the Daleks have a force field around them that melts bullets, which is great. And I also think some amazing retconning for all the times Daleks were getting shot and fuck all was happening. You know. Although, has there ever been a Dalek that's been killed just by a gun? Probably. There's been a lot of guns in Doctor Who.
Well, we just covered an episode of Doctor Who where a Cyberman got shot by a gun.
Yeah, the Cybermen were fucking pathetic. But the Cybermen the Cybermen have never been established to have force fields, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas I like that change with the Daleks to have a force field. But
you can tell they were kind of inspired by the Matrix when later on we get a slow-mo bullet
time
scene.
Yeah. But the Dalek also electrocutes itself to repair itself, which is how that works, I guess.
Yeah, the reason later on he says basically that Rose being a time traveler means he can regenerate himself, which doesn't make a lot of sense.
Doesn't make any sense at all, but fuck it, who gives a shit?
I think it makes sense in old Who canon. Basically, the TARDIS, basically in the first regeneration, it's the TARDIS that allows the Doctor to regenerate, not the fact that he's a Time Lord. So, I guess Rose's energy with the TARDIS causes him to be able to regenerate.
I suppose. And wasn't there an episode that was like, if you travel through time, your like energy becomes all fucked anyway, and like you can tell if someone's a time traveler. So like maybe that just got transferred over, and you can do something with electricity to science your regeneration metals.
Doctor Who is very silly, and also the Dalek just on the internet
looking at porn.
It's very bizarre, and it's obviously 2005. This is the first time they could write the internet onto the show. Well, obviously the internet was like brand new then.
Like it'd been around for like 10 years or so, but like I think around 2005 is when it started to really get into everyone's homes, because it's no longer dial-up, it's now broadband. And that's significantly better, you know.
Do you remember the BBC Doctor Who website game based on this episode where you control a Dalek and you go through different obstacles? It's not around anymore, but it was a brilliant game.
Possibly. I played a lot of Flash games when I was a kid. It was like the only thing, because obviously, you know, I wasn't on YouTube at this time because I wasn't allowed to be. I wasn't on really anything. I wasn't interested in news sites. Social media wasn't really a thing. So I would go on the internet very rarely, because I think we didn't really even have a computer, but it would be whenever I got on a computer, Flash games. And that was the best fucking thing ever.
The game was called The Last Dalek, and there's a video on YouTube that basically shows off what it was like. I'll show you the link if you're interested.
No.
Okay then.
I never played this game, but it seems like it would have been fun. Like the graphics are really good for a Flash game from 2005. That's mental, but very impressed. Well done, BBC. Remember when you used to market the show?
Oh God.
So our episode continues with the Dalek downloading the internet and deciding in Ultron style that humanity's definitely not worth it. And it goes around zapping everybody a bit more. And speaking of zapping people, I think the special effect of someone getting electrocuted by the Dalek is one of the best special effects Doctor Who has ever done.
Oh yes,
it-
the skeleton being
yeah.
exposed is fucking amazing.
Yeah, it makes the thing, one, look extremely painful, and two, is like an effect that actually still holds up. Like,
Yeah.
it looks amazing every single time I see it. I'm like, oh, fuck, that looks like it hurts.
Do they do that these days? Because I can't think of the last time I've seen. a
When was the
skeleton
last time
exposed.
someone got shot by a Dalek?
You know, there's a Dalek story fucking every single fucking year. So
I think they definitely still do it.
you know, we probably did it in Eve of the Daleks. I just can't remember.
I
'cause
just,
that's
yeah, yeah, with the time loop shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
They almost certainly did do it. It would be too weird if they just fell over. Like, it's such a staple now of what the Dalek should be.
But I imagine we don't take notice of it anymore because we literally
We're used to
see
seeing
every
it.
fucking
Yeah,
year.
yeah, we're used to seeing it. But as it's moving along, zapping people, we then get the bullet time slow motion of explaining why the Dalek's not getting hurt is because it's melting all the bullets with this force field. And Von Straten the entire time is like, "Hey guys, don't shoot the Dalek, please. I don't care if you're dying. I don't want the thing to get hurt. So please stop shooting the Dalek." And no one's listening to him because it's the dumbest thing anybody's ever said in the history of things. Which is pretty good. Von Straten's doing a good job making himself unlikable.
Yes.
As far as people go, he's just generic human villain man, but I think the performance is strong enough from him that it doesn't get tiresome.
Yeah, he really works for the episode. When I was a kid, I had the strongest suspicion that he was Jon Favreau for some reason, because
I guess the goatee, the
goatee as a kid, and the way he kind of fast talks. I only saw him in Friends when I was a kid, and I was like, "That's Monica's boyfriend," but obviously it's not.
You were a dumb kid.
Funny thing is, I looked up this actor the other day. It turns out he played Donald Trump in something else. So, so where's the Donald Trump comparison again for you?
Yeah, interesting. The Dalek is continuing to chase basically Rose and Adam and the soldier that's escorting them through the facility. And Rose is like, "Oh my god, stairs. We can get upstairs. It can't get upstairs. It doesn't have legs. Ha ha ha. We'll all stand here and just point and laugh at it instead of using this to our advantage to get away for a few extra seconds. No, we're going to kill this lady that's with us. 100% it's Rose's fault because they stopped moving to laugh at the Dalek. But this is when we get an amazing moment where the soldiers shouting at the Dalek, like, surrender, people died, but it ends here, and then the Dalek just looks at her and goes, elevate, and starts flying, and it's like, I remember watching that as a kid. It is fucking awesome.
One thing when I was first watching this for this podcast is, when I was watching it, I was like, that Dalek is moving awfully slow, but at the same time, you can think of it being like, he's tormenting them. He's going slow on purpose because he can still get them even if he moves.
He could shoot them
slow.
from where he is. He just wants to show them that they've not won, that he can get up the stairs.
And of course, this isn't the first time we actually saw a Dalek fly. We saw a Dalek fly for the last appearance in Remembrance of the Daleks, which was a 7th Doctor episode. But obviously, that episode only had like 4.5 million viewers. And that was when Doctor Who was down the shitter, really. So here we are with a proper Dalek.
It's also, this is the first time we're seeing Daleks in the rebooted series. You want to kind of establish everything a Dalek can do, and establishing that, yes, they can fly, they can zap people, they can absorb bullets. It's just showing off, like, this is what a Dalek is. If you didn't know what a Dalek was, they suck people up with their sucker.
It's kind of wild, but the first 2 times we saw a Dalek fly, it's because they're going upstairs. No other reason, just going upstairs.
They're a solution to a very common problem. We then get a very brief scene with the Doctor and Van Straten. Van Straten's like, "Oh, we'll just let him out, and everything will be chill." And the Doctor's like, "How many people live in Salt Lake City?" And the guy's like, "About 1 million." And then the Doctor's like, "Cool, they're all dead if that thing gets out, like, instantly. Like, the Dalek doesn't give a crap. It's straight up just a robot Nazi. It'll kill everybody that's not a Dalek because they're not Daleks."
They're not out for revenge or anything like that. They'll just take over the entire world until there's nothing left except itself. Again,
establishing what a Dalek is to somebody that doesn't know what a Dalek is. It's like the Doctor's telling us, the audience, that the Dalek's bad and all the reasons it's bad. It's irredeemably bad, basically.
Yeah, it's a perfect episode for establishing the Daleks, because when they show up again, when it was like 100 million Daleks in the series final, you're like, holy shit, now it's getting real.
It's interesting. It's very, we were talking about Terminator, but to think about another James Cameron Aliens,
Yeah.
this is very much like the first Alien movie where there's one Dalek in a base and it's fucking terrifying. And then in the sequel, there's a billion Daleks and it's not terrifying, but it's just really cool. Like,
They should have called the series One Final Daleks.
Daleks, yeah. That would have been great. That would have been great. That would have been great. I would have loved, yeah. But we then get a bunch of soldiers that are like setting up this corner to shoot the Dalek when it comes, and the doctor's like, if you concentrate your fire, you should be able to break through. Its weak point's its eye. Then all the soldiers get ready to shoot. One soldier has a really dumb line, and he's like, I know how to kill robots. I'm like, how the fuck do you know how to kill robots? This is the first time this has happened to you. Stop lying. Like, you had the cushy job of, I'm sitting around a museum. Like...
Yeah, also, this is a point where the doctor should be like, yo, it's not a robot, so get after your thick skull, because the audience at the time think Daleks were robots, really, because they weren't.
Yeah,
that
I mean,
popular,
how
really.
often do you see the squid thing? And it's also been a long time since Doctor Who was on air, and a long time since anybody that liked it watched it, or like casually liked it, and so they'll have the vague memories, and what they'll remember is the tin suit. They won't remember the squid.
Yeah,
because
I remember being shocked at the end of the episode where the squid gets revealed. I'm like,
yeah,
oh my god, it's not a robot. What's going on?
Yeah, I remember thinking it was cool as fuck. But then Rose and Adam come running through, and they almost get shot. But they just run to safety as the Dalek chases quickly behind. And the Dalek stops, and we see the Dalek's point of view where it's just kind of zoomed in on Rose's face because it's got a big crush. It's like, oh my god, you're so cute. It's a very flirty episode where Rose is flirting with everybody, including the Dalek. Rose is like, hey, it looked at me. It looked at me. And Adam's like, shut up. It looked at everybody. I'm cute as well. And then everybody starts shooting the Dalek. And the Dalek's like, I'm going to turn on the fire extinguisher. What a good prank. And then with the water, it electrocutes everybody and some special effects that definitely hold up. Don't look too close at them.
The special effects aren't that great, but I just love the idea of the Dalek basically toying with them. There's no reason he has to turn on the water. He just wants to play with them. The Doctor.
Well, I mean, he turns the water on because he can kill them in one shot. Because electricity is more fucking bouncy in water, or whatever the fuck's the right word.
But he doesn't need to use water.
Oh, he could shoot them all individually, but he's like, look at this trick shot. Like, it really just establishes that it's not a mindless killing machine. It can think.
Yeah.
It can strategize.
And that's also the problem with what Doctor Who became in the classic era, because every time from the 4th Doctor to the 7th Doctor, every time we saw the Daleks, we also saw Davros, and the episode was more focused on Davros, while the Daleks were basically the mindless henchmen who would turn on them at the end.
I can understand the point of that, or I guess their reasoning for that is Davros has a human face.
Yeah.
And you can then get acting, It's like the reason why they make superheroes take their masks off all the time. So you can see the performance.
Yeah, because when we watched Resurrection of the Daleks, the weakest part of that episode might have been the Daleks themselves. They're just kind of there. Really.
They did really not. Really, it was just a Davros fucking machine. Like,
and like Genesis of the Daleks and Remembrance of the Daleks both featured Davros, and they're like my favorite episodes of Doctor Who ever. But still, the Daleks themselves are kind of nothing.
I have a little model Davros somewhere. I think he's packed up because I'm like homeless at the moment. But I love Davros as well. He's great. I love him in every appearance. I really liked him with Capaldi as well, where he's just like a little old guy chatting. That was great. But then we get, speaking of people chatting, another amazing scene with the Dalek and Eccleston, where Eccleston's like, you know what, Dalek, you've got fuck all left to live for, because the Dalek's just standing there being like, I scanned and searched for my other Daleks, and you're right, I'm alone, and what do I do now? And the Doctor's like, here, just kill yourself. Like hearing the Doctor say, kill yourself, is just insane,
Yeah.
It's so dark. It's he's frozen.
Yeah.
Are you back?
Yeah, you've been cutting in and out.
Wow, it's your internet, not mine.
Is it?
He's frozen again.
Am I?
You keep freezing. Yeah. You're back?
Huh.
You back?
Yes, I'm back. I hear you.
Okay. Yeah, the Doctor tells the Dalek to kill himself, and it's extremely dark.
Yeah, one of my favorite thing is as he's saying "kill yourself," Christopher Eccleston starts spitting out, and there's a bit of dribble on his chin as well. And apparently, Chris, I almost called him Chris Chibnall for some reason. Christopher Eccleston was like, "Leave the dribble there. I just want to show off how ugly the Doctor is."
Yeah, he's like frothing at the mouth
bit.
with anger. Like, yeah,
It's perfect.
It's real good. And then there's this like moment of silence, and the Dalek just says, "You would be a good Dalek," which to this version of the Doctor that's fresh out the Time War is like just punching him in the heart. It's the perfect fucking line. It's so good.
Also, I love how his script is like, yeah, if the Doctor committed genocide, he is a Dalek here.
Yeah.
Whereas in the new series, the Doctor commits genocide
All
every
the time.
fucking
That's how they solve their problems. Yeah, fuck it, we'll genocide this one. But what I do really like here is that, you know, the Doctor, what you're just saying, like he's become a Dalek, and even in his anger that he's now showing, you know, and he's realizing that this awesome hypocrisy that he's turned into, fighting the Daleks has turned him into a Dalek. And it reminds me of this quote, and it's from this really obscure film, right? It was this film, I think it was made in the late 40s, early 50s, right? An independent film, completely funded by the filmmakers themselves. Shot in black and white, like real guerrilla style film made in like central London about if the Nazis took over Britain. And there's this, you know, there was this like infamous scene where they were actually interviewing a genuine British Nazi, and he just goes off talking about fascism and how great fascism is for a wee while, and they just kind of kept the camera rolling on him. And then there's this, it's either a monologue, I think it's a monologue by somebody else, and he starts talking about I'll try and find a clip of it to stick in afterwards, but he starts talking about how the ugly thing with fascism is the only way that you can beat fascism is with fascism, because if you are tolerant towards fascism, fascism wins, and then suddenly fascism takes over. But if you're fascist towards fascism, fascism can't expand in any way. And so it's this horrible hypocrisy that you have to like destroy a part of yourself constantly to keep it destroyed, otherwise it will just take over. And yeah, it's this beautifully complex concept which, you know, you see a lot of in this. It's a good film as well.
Movie?
I don't remember. I'll find it and I'll just VO in. It's this film here, and I'll message you it when I find it out, because my brother bought it on DVD and we watched it. It's not a great film. It's like it's got like that's the only good scene in it.
Right. Yeah.
The rest of the film, because it was so low budget and because it was from like the 50s, the audio was like fucking incomprehensible. As like you have no idea what's going on in the story at all for the most part. But then there's just this scene that's inside like a pub, so like the audio is actually good and the camera's actually good, and it's like this one scene sucks you in. The rest of the film I was pretty bored, to be honest. But
that's a lot of films from a year ago. There's like one good scene, and then the rest is just like boring black and white people.
Just shit happening that nobody cares about.
Yeah.
The partisans hate the fascists, just as the fascists hate the Jews. There's nothing to choose between them.
The appalling thing about fascism is that you've got to use fascist methods to get rid of it. We've all got a bit of it in us. And it doesn't take much to bring it to the surface. It stays with us. Probably always will.
Well, hadn't we better make the most of it now that we're stuck with it?
Oh, good God, no. You don't get the point. We're stuck with disease. But we don't sit back and accept it. We fight it. And we've got to fight fascism because it's a disease of the mind. And when you fight a disease, you often use its own germ for inoculation. Do you see?
One of my favorite things about the scene also is the Dalek is looking for orders, and the only person he can turn to is the Doctor, because he's the closest thing to a Dalek, because he knows what a Dalek is, and he kind of is a Dalek. And it's also very just brutal. It's brutal, man.
Yeah. So the name of the film, I just messaged my brother right now, was called It Happened Here.
Oh right, I've heard about it.
Yes, it's worth checking out, I guess, for film history stuff, because it's just really interesting piece of film history. But really, I just recommend that one scene because the film itself is pretty not great.
I just looked up the running time, 97 minutes. I feel like that's probably last. I feel like it probably feels like 3 hours.
It is slow. It is slow. Yeah, it is a long hour and a half for what accounts to about a 10-minute good scene. I think there's maybe 2 good scenes in it actually, but that scene where they're talking about fascism is definitely the best scene.
Who watches It Happens Here when?
But back to the episode. So the Doctor and that Van Straten is like, I'm hacking the internet to shut everything down. And the Doctor's like, Rose, you've got to get to this floor now, or otherwise you're going to be locked up because we're closing the doors. And we get basically this moment of tension where Rose has to run up like 10 flights of stairs as fast as she can, while the Doctor tries not to press an enter button. And he only holds off on that urge for a few minutes before he has to press the enter button because he has to make this. I'm joking. He has to make this really amazing decision where it's like, does he like risk Rose dying or does he risk the world dying and the Dalek getting out? Like, he tries holding off as long as he can before pressing the button.
It feels a lot like the end of World War III, the last episode. With his Levine in Downing Street. It feels like he had to make a sacrifice as well in that episode. I can't remember what happened.
Yeah.
It's been a while, but
yeah. But he presses the button. Adam, of course, gets through because he's everyone's favorite character. Rose, on the other hand, does not make it through, and she has this very nice little speech to the Doctor where she's like, hey, I don't blame you. Don't blame yourself. This was a good time. Bye. And then we hear the Dalek come up and shoot. And we presume that she is dead for all of about 2 minutes in the runtime.
I have a question for you. As a kid, did you think she was dead?
I don't remember, and probably not because it's literally about 90 seconds and we see her alive again.
I remember being on the edge of my seat, being like,
I remember
shit,
I was probably on the edge of my seat, but I don't know if I ever thought she was like truly dead. There was probably a moment where I was like, oh, okay, she's alive.
Yeah.
But that's just it's just a fun bit of tension in an episode filled with tension,
And also that would be the cliffhanger to part 3 of the classic series.
Yeah. But we then the Doctor gets all angry when he thinks that Rose. Where the fuck am I? I've lost my place. The Doctor gets all angry when he thinks that Rose is dead, and he starts shouting at Adam, being like, nobody even likes you, you're so stupid. And he's then like comes to this, he's like, oh my god, I killed her and she was only 19, which whenever they mention Rose's age, it's always like, why is she 19? Because I mean, like, Billie Piper doesn't even look 19. Like, she looks like at least 24. I don't know how old she was when she was shooting it, but
let me look up the old
let's find out. If she was actually 19, I would be stunned. I mean, to be fair, she was like famous as like a preteen in Britain, but
she was born in 1982.
Okay, so in 2005 she would
have been 23.
Yeah, 24? That's what I said, 24. Yeah, she looks her age. Yeah, she doesn't look 19 though. Which, why not just make her 24? Why does she have to be a teenager? Like,
I keep on forgetting she was married
Same.
to Lawrence Fox. Jesus Christ.
Oh yeah, this super weird dude that's like really right wing and keeps losing his bid to run for mayor.
For almost a decade she was married to him, and she divorced him in 2016, which is a year significant for, Trump, which I imagine he got extra Trumpy that year. Yeah.
I think that's when he started getting really right-wingy in public. I'm sure he handled it very well. But then everybody's kind of just stumbling around, and they're like, okay, we're gonna go kill a Dalek, and the Doctor grabs the biggest fucking cannon you've ever seen in your life. Like, it is like a hand bazooka. It is humongous.
We're looking through the little cardboard box full of weapons. One of them's a hairdryer, which is the only line to last from the first draft. It lasted throughout every single draft.
Wow. Amazing. We then cut and we get the big reveal that Rose is actually alive, and the Dalek never killed her. Actually, that happens just before then. I'll get my scenes backwards. But we find out that Rose is alive, and basically the reason that she's alive is when she touched the Dalek got her emotions as well as... don't worry about it. She touched it, and the magic happened, and now the Dalek's got feelings.
It's incredibly vague on what exactly will happen to the Dalek, but it works for the episodes, I would say.
But with the Dalek now, like, listening to Rose and not killing her, it's like, you could live a good life, Dalek. Come with me, and we'll be like super happy together. And the Dalek's like, fuck, okay, tell me, like, what, I want to go outside. That's all I want. I just want to be free. And Rose is like, okay, well, you can be free if you want to be free. Let's go for a walk. And how exactly do they get out? Because the thing was, like, deadlocked. Like, the big barrier. They just kind of are suddenly on the top floor.
The Doctor presses enter again
because they're going to go kill the Dalek. Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
One of my favorite things about this episode is it's kind of like Beauty and the Beast in reverse, or The Fly even. Instead of the person turning into a beast, the beast turns into a person, kind of.
Yeah. But they make it up, and the Dalek shoots the roof, and it leads to this great bit where the sun comes beating down on the Dalek, and the Dalek's like, oh, what does it feel like? And we get some, at the time, amazing CGI.
You've skipped out the scene where he's in Van Statten's office.
And he's like, I'm going to kill you, Van Statten, and then Rose is like, no. And then he's like, okay.
What I like about that scene is every time the Dalek pans to Rose or Van Statten on either side of him, the camera pans with it, and it's really good cinematography, I think. Mm-hmm. And also, I just really love Nicholas Briggs' performance in that scene. It's like, I don't know if we are just used to him just being the funny noise man, or if he's been a good actor all this time, because he is excellent in here. Like, Jesus Christ, I don't ever think of his performance as being excellent, because I keep thinking of him as being like a monster of the week. But here, his performance is like so good.
I think his performance has always been good. I never ever watch the Daleks and think that's a human being talking.
Yeah.
It's always that's the Dalek talking, because he does such a good job embodying, the mannerisms and the speech patterns that you would imagine this Dalek having, that I'm never taken out of a scene being like, oh, Nicholas Briggs kind of flat on that line, know?
What I mean is, he's always good, but I just kind of take him for granted. Like, every time a Dalek appears, I'm like, oh yeah, that's the Dalek. I never think about Nicholas Briggs' performance as a whole. In this episode, I'm like, holy shit, that's a well-delivered line.
Yeah. Well, sometimes the best performances are the ones you don't notice, because they're not calling attention to themselves. They're just doing a good job. But back to the rooftop, the Dalek shoots it, and we get some pretty decent looking CGI at the time. Pretty dated now, but not, kind of a bit distracting, but not superly distracting. The most distracting part for me is the 2D fucking zapper.
Yeah.
Because it's like a flat 2D image on a 3D rendered cube so that they can move it out, and it doesn't look great anymore, but I remember it looking cool at the time. The Dalek opens, and we get the first look at the squid inside, and I'm so fucking happy they chose to make it a practical puppet and not a CGI squid. Yeah. Because I'm sure the temptation was there.
Yeah. And the CGI squid would have aged like milk, whereas practical effect, it looks real, obviously, and it's just perfect, and it's goopy, and
it looks awesome. It's so good. What I really like about it is specifically the eyeball. With a lot of puppets, eyes end up looking dead, but for whatever reason, the eye here looks fucking awesome. Like, it doesn't look dead to me. The blinking, that's where it gets taken away, where you're like, oh, that's a puppet. But the eyeball itself, there's like the whiteness of the light getting reflected in it that just makes it seem that extra bit more alive. I think it's a superb puppet.
Maybe they added a bit of CGI with the eyeball, I'm not sure, but it really does look excellent, and I'm glad they kind of stuck with this design, because whenever you see a Dalek, a squid in the classic series is very different each time. Like, the first time we saw the Dalek, it's like a hand, and it's just a person wearing a glove underneath a blanket.
Yeah. But the Dalek is like, fuck, the sun's so nice, this is lovely. And then the Doctor comes rocking up with his big fucking bazooka, and he's like, Rose, get out the way, I'm gonna nuke it. And then Rose is like, I'm not getting out the way. And the Doctor goes, come on, it's like a killing machine. And Rose is the line of, it's not the one pointing a gun at me right now. Further, showing that, the Doctor's a bit of a Dalek himself at the moment. These things have run rampant on him, and he needs to change his ways.
But also you can understand the Doctor here.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I would probably shoot the Dalek myself.
Space
like, no
Hitler.
questions asked.
It's Space Hitler, and Rose doesn't understand it's Space Hitler because it was nice to her once.
One of my favorite things about when Christopher Eccleston enters the scene, the score is just completely absent. It's just Billy Piper and Christopher Eccleston acting their asses off.
Yeah.
Like, the score has been really good this episode. I think it's Murray Gold's best work at this point of the show. Like, the Dalek Oompha song is excellent. It's like one of his best tracks. I really love Murray Gold, man. I'm kind of excited for him to come back, maybe.
I hope he like just does the 11th Doctor's theme song again.
God,
like,
please no.
Like just at inappropriate times. Like
like two characters are sitting down for a cup of tea.
Yeah.
And he plays with the Doctor.
Yeah, it would be the most awesome cup of tea you've ever seen on TV because it's a great song. But the Dalek is then basically, seeing the sunlight on him, and, the Doctor realizing that he's not going to kill the Dalek. The Dalek's like, fucking, I got nothing to live for at this point. Rose, can you do me a favor and just order me to die? Like, because, why am I still alive? What do I have to go for? I can go out on my own terms, basically. And begrudgingly, it happens. And what do you think about how the Dalek kills itself?
It kind of just turns into a CGI ball,
Yeah, it's like all the testicles that are on its shell pop off and surround it in this sphere shield. I guess it's the shield that's stopping the bullets that are coming around in an orb to protect the explosion, and then the shell explodes so that the explosion doesn't kill everybody with it. Because that'd be pretty fucking funny of the Dalek to be like, order me to die, and then nukes the facility when it explodes, killing everybody. But yes, I think it's an interesting concept for how you'd show a Dalek killing itself.
I think it might be the weakest CGI of the episode, but overall,
it's because it's the heaviest bit of CGI in the episode, But yeah,
in 2005, it still looked great. I didn't question anything of this episode. Thinking about this is 2005 when a TV budget is not the highest budget. It's fairly impressive what we could get away with.
Oh yeah, I remember it looking amazing.
And also the way the Dalek kind of goes out by just asking Rose to order him to kill himself is the way the Dalek goes out in Jubilee. So it's a nice little carryover.
Yes. And then the episode really fucking quickly wraps itself up as we cut to Van Straten getting dragged away by his soldiers as the lady he promoted at the start of the episode is staging a coup and is like, we're going to wipe your memory because apparently we can do that, and we're going to send you off to some place, and I'm in charge now because I said so. Ha 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 ha.
In the book, she's actually like a FBI agent who's been undercover this entire time just trying to collect dirt on Van Straten. And also Van Straten found the memory wiping device. I guess it's like Men in Black kind of. Apparently one of his ex-wives was really mad at him because he kept on thinking about aliens over her, and he decided, nah, fuck you, I'm going to wipe your memory and just leave you on the streets somewhere.
It sounds like it's a great guy. Sounds like a good book. And then in our last scene of the episode, we get a pretty meh ending where the Doctor and Rose are getting back into the TARDIS, and Rose is like, take Adam, he's cute. And the Doctor's like, fine. And then Adam gets into the TARDIS, and that's how the episode ends, basically, with Adam being like, I'm a new companion, even though he fucking leaves in the next episode. But again, the purpose of Adam is to show that not everybody can travel with the Doctor.
I apparently the guy who plays Adam wasn't aware that the TARDIS was bigger on the inside, so I think he was like one of the only companions in the entire series to not be aware of the concept of the TARDIS.
Wow.
Which is kind of wild. And also, one of the early drafts would have ended with no one being able to find Van Staten, and the TARDIS would leave, revealing his head in a glass cage.
Oh, Jesus. That's
Which would have been a dark ending.
Yeah, that's a sudden change in tone. It's a dark episode, but that's a dark ending. But that's really the end of this episode with them going away. We get a teaser for the episode next, which was
The
Long Game, which stars Simon Pegg and is really fun. Not the best episode of the season, but it's a solid mid. Pretty fun little episode.
Every episode in Series 1 is very good, and also every episode in Series 1 interconnects because they're on a platform something, and that platform returns at the end of a series as well, which is wild.
Yeah. Season 1 is this little story box of plotting that because who knows if it's going to get renewed, so you just kind of want to make a little concise story, which is lovely. But what did you think of Dalek, Scott?
It's fucking great. It's very much like the episode Rose that we covered last year, is the very first episode. It's a nice, simple plot, but it really lets you know exactly what a Dalek is. And it does such a great job. And it might be the best base under siege story Doctor Who's ever done. Mm-hmm. I really love the story, man. It's really solid.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's probably tied first for my favorite story in season 1 with The Empty Child, because those are just fucking phenomenal stories. Eccleston's on fire this entire episode. It's such a quiet, small story, which is where I think sometimes Doctor Who's at its best, is when you get rid of all the extra thrills and the flashing and the explosions and stuff, and you're just like, okay, we're going to strip it to its bare essentials. We have a Dalek, we have a building, they're trapped. And then you have just an amazing episode from just a simple concept. You don't need to get big with it, and I think that it handles it amazingly at every turn.
Yeah, they could have easily made this episode, there's a million Daleks and we want to take over the world.
And they're fighting the Time Lords, and also there's all these other subplots that are happening, but don't worry about those ones. I'm making a reference to that one episode we covered.
But this episode just feels like it's a tight little story, and it's I would say the only scene that doesn't feel like it goes anywhere is the scene where Rose and Adam are flirting. But that's only like a minute-long scene. Every other scene feels like it has its own purpose.
Every other scene's almost a monologue. It's amazing, It's so good. It's a fucking amazing episode. If somehow you haven't seen Dalek, go and watch. Eccleston season is underrated. A lot of people, I think, start on season 2 because they're like, oh, it's David Tennant, he's the Doctor, he's got more than one season. It feels a bit more like canon, especially because Eccleston's kind of distanced himself from the show after his season, so he's never really mentioned again. But you need Eccleston season, I think, is priority viewing. You need to watch Eccleston season. I always, if I'm doing a rewatch, I start on season 1 because it's a phenomenal season.
Same here. I think people should start with season 1, as in the William Hartnell era. And
that's what I'm doing as well, and it's really fucking hard.
So you can watch amazing episodes like with Web Planet.
The Web Planet season 2. This is Web Planet Space Museum season 2.
Yeah, I know.
So season 1, you've got greats like the Aztecs. That's okay. And then probably others. There's a lot of history stuff in season 1.
There is, yes.
Yeah.
when the show is trying to be educational as well.
Yeah. But Scott, next week, what have we got coming up?
I can't remember the title, but it's
the haunting. It's the haunting of Villa Diodati, which is kind of our soft kick off into Chris Chibnall month, isn't it? Because I don't know if he wrote this episode. He might have co-written it.
No.
But
he didn't write it, but
came out under his show running. But this, because September is Chris Chibnall month, where we are looking at 4 episodes he wrote, and starting it off with The Haunting of Villa Diodati when he's in charge of the show, but hasn't written it. I think is a good way to dip our toe into the pool of getting ready for that Chris Chibnall tone again. It's been a while. I'm really hoping to be surprised. I'm honestly really hoping to be surprised, like pleasantly surprised. I'm going in with an open mind with this. I want to be excited for the centenary special. You know, the fucking Sea Devil special put a bitter taste in our mouths. I want a refresh. I want to be fucking Chris Chibnall hype train. Here we go. You know,
I can tell you, I really enjoy the Cyberman episode, and 2 of the episodes we're covering in September with Adrift from Torchwood.
Dinosaurs
and,
on a Spaceship is fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's dumb and fun, but Rory's dad's the fucking best thing ever. But yeah, next week is The Haunting of Villa Diodati. In the meantime, you can send us an email at whowatcheswhopod@gmail.com, and we'll read it out at the end of the month in our News Roundup podcast. Did you start with Eccleston? What's your favorite Eccleston episode? I'd be really curious as to where most people started watching and if they've seen season 1. Because I know for a fact a lot of people just skip him, and it drives me insane every time. Mainly, like, it drives me insane because it's great, but it also drives me insane from a completionist point of view. Like, imagine starting a show on season 2 and not watching it on season 1. Like, a fucking drive, like, who the fuck? Fuck you. But it's whowatcheswhopod@gmail.com. Send us an email. In the meantime, you can find us on Twitter at WatchesDoctor, on Facebook at Who Watches Who. The podcast is available in video form at youtube.com. Who Watches Who. Hello. Whoa, look at our moving our arms. Look, if you're watching on YouTube, you're the only person that's going to see this message. Okay, so you got to watch it to find out what that was. That's Who Watches Who on YouTube. The podcast is available in audio form wherever you listen to podcasts. There's a heap of links in the description. And in the meantime, follow me on Twitter at Cloth223. Also, I've been doing a lot of streaming. We just finished I just finished, Scott was there hanging out. Just finished streaming the Doctor Who game. What the fuck's it called? Edge of Reality? Yes, Doctor Who, the Edge of Reality. I just finished streaming that on Twitch. We completed it, and it was mostly terrible, but had some really interesting ideas in it, and was weirdly a sequel to The Girl in the Fireplace, out of nowhere. But, yeah, great. I say great game, weird game. Kind of really liked it, kind of didn't like it. I streamed that on Twitch, something orange on Twitch. Give me a follow. I'm about to be streaming a lot more because it's really fun, and I'm not doing anything with a lot of my time at the moment. So
we should probably upload highlights of that.
Yes, I have downloaded. I have downloaded the entire streams, both of them. I just need to cut them together at some point because it is
very nice.
Yeah, and they'll probably go on Who Watches Who, instead of my own personal something orange YouTube channel. But
or both.
Why not
do both?
I could just do both. But something orange on Twitch, twitch.tv/something orange, the best Twitch channel you'll ever find in your life, and we'll just hang out and chat about Doctor Who as I play a Dead by Daylight dating game, or Spider-Man, which comes out on Friday, and I'm definitely gonna fucking try and stream that shit. But until then, I will see you next week, and Scott will see you next week as well because he's always here. Bye-bye. Bye.